I was the overlooked sister until they found out I built a secret $12 million empire. They demanded I share the wealth, but I cut them off for good. Now, they're furious and I'm finally free. Hi. I'm Sarah, 38 years old, and I need to get this off my chest. You ever hear those stories where one sibling is the family's golden child, while the other is basically invisible? That's my life in a nutshell. Growing up, everything was pretty standard, at least at first. I was an only child for the first 8 years, and while my parents weren't exactly warm and fuzzy, they were present. My mom helped me with homework sometimes, and my dad would take me fishing at Lake St. Clair now and then. We weren't the perfect family, but we were okay. That all changed one night. I remember it clearly. My Aunt Kelly showed up at 2 a.m., her face pale, telling me to pack a bag because Mom was in the hospital. My sister Rachel was on her way, but something was wrong. She wasn't supposed to arrive for another 2 months. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of hospital visits, whispered conversations, and a lot of hush-hush around me. Rachel was tiny. She looked like a doll hooked up to tubes and wires. I wasn't allowed to touch her, barely even get close. And that was when I first felt it, that invisible wall growing between me and the rest of the family. When Rachel finally came home, our house changed. It wasn't a home anymore. It was a sterile, sanitized zone. My mom became obsessed with germs. She filled the house with industrial-strength cleaners, set up hand sanitizer stations in every room, and scrubbed everything constantly. The harsh smell of bleach still makes my stomach turn even today. But here's the kicker: whenever I so much as sneezed, I was whisked away to either Grandma Marie's or Aunt Kelly's house. Every single time, a little sniffle, off you go, a mild cough, pack your bags. At first, I thought it was fun. Grandma Marie made cookies, and Aunt Kelly had a whole collection of Nancy Drew books I loved. But kids aren't dumb. After a while, I realized what was really happening. I wasn't being sent away for fun. I was being exiled, treated like a threat, as if my very presence might harm their precious Rachel. I tried everything I could to get their attention. I got straight A's. Mom barely looked up from Rachel's appointment calendar. I won first prize at the science fair for a project on renewable energy. Dad just asked me to store the display board in the garage because Rachel was allergic to cardboard dust. Is that even a thing? The moment that really stuck with me happened when I was 12. I'd been practicing for months to play bridge over troubled water at the school talent show. The night of the show, Rachel had a 99.1-degree fever. Guess who didn't have anyone in the audience cheering her on? 2 weeks later, the whole family, both sets of grandparents included, showed up for Rachel's 15-minute flute recital, where she fumbled through hot cross buns. Rachel quickly learned how to work the system. By 7, she'd outgrown any real health issues, but it didn't stop her from claiming headaches to skip school or feeling tired so someone else would do her chores. If she felt nervous about a test, Mom would literally call the school and get her an extension. Meanwhile, I faded into the background. I started spending more time in my room, burying myself in books about art history and antiques. Funny how life works out. My room became my sanctuary, mostly because Rachel claimed she was allergic to the lavender air freshener I used, so she stayed out. When Rachel pretended to be sick, a part of me felt relief. At least I'd be sent to Grandma Marie's, where someone would ask how my day was or actually care about what I had to say. It was Grandma who first sparked my interest in vintage jewelry. She had an amazing collection of costume pieces that she let me organize and catalog. Looking back, I guess that was a sign. The worst part wasn't even the favoritism, it was how they rewrote the narrative to justify it. Rachel needs extra attention because of her rough start. Sarah's always been so independent. Sarah understands Rachel has special needs. No, I didn't understand. I was a child who couldn't grasp why having a strong immune system meant I deserved less love. Those years shaped me in ways I'm still unpacking. That constant message that I was somehow dangerous, inconvenient, doesn't just vanish. But hey, at least it taught me to be self-sufficient. When no one checks your homework or claps for your achievements, you learn to cheer for yourself. High school wasn't something I loved or hated, it was simply a stepping stone to freedom. While Rachel built her drama queen empire in middle school, I was laying the groundwork for my escape. Remember those hours I spent organizing Grandma Marie's jewelry? They taught me the importance of precision and detail. That skill carried over into everything I did. My desk at home looked like something out of an organization magazine, color-coded notes, meticulous study, schedules, everything in its place. Rachel mocked me for it, calling me Rainman, very classy, sis. But here's the thing about being invisible: no one's watching you. No one's checking your grades, no one's waiting to see if you fail, so you do whatever you want. I joined every club that wouldn't interfere with my part-time job at Carson's Diner. Debate team. Check. National Honor Society president. Check. Editor-in-chief of the school newspaper. Check. Debate team was, or I really found my voice. There's something thrilling about dismantling someone's argument while staying cool as a cucumber. It also taught me how to negotiate a skit I didn't realize would come in handy later. I won state competitions twice. My parents didn't come to either one. Rachel had a big soccer game. She was on the C team, by the way, and didn't even play. Junior year was when things got interesting. I took the SAT and scored a perfect 1600. Not pretty good, I mean perfect. Less than 1% of people do that. I stared at the score in disbelief for 20 minutes, thinking it had to be a mistake. I rushed home to tell my parents. Stupid me. Mom was in the kitchen, helping Rachel with her English homework. Our conversation went something like this. Mom, I got a perfect score on the SAT. Mom, barely looking up. That's nice, honey. Keep it down. Rachel's studying for a big test tomorrow. Rachel, not missing a beat. Yeah, some of us actually have to study. Miss Perfect. Mom, smiling at Rachel. Don't worry, sweetie. You're just a different kind of learner. I still have that SAT score printout somewhere. Never made it onto the fridge. Rachel C+ in English. Front and center, held up by a "We're so proud of you" magnet. The college application process was an eye-opener. I applied to 15 schools without telling anyone. I wrote all my essays, gathered recommendations, and handled the entire financial aid process myself. My guidance counselor, Mr. Chen, was the real MVP, staying late with me to go over the FAFSA when my parents were too busy to care. And then the acceptance letters started rolling in. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Michigan, each one with a scholarship offer attached. I stashed those letters in a locked box under my bed because I knew what would happen if Rachel found out. Suddenly, it would all become about her. But if Sarah goes to Harvard, I'll be all alone. I could hear the script already. The day I received a full-ride scholarship offer from Yale, Rachel made the JV cheerleading team. Guess which accomplishment was celebrated with a family dinner at Olive Garden? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't mine. I ate microwave mac and cheese alone in my room while they clinked glasses over breadsticks. But you know what? That scholarship was my golden ticket: full tuition, room, board, even a book allowance. Finally, I could leave that house where I was either invisible or an inconvenience. I remember sitting in my favorite corner of the library, a 4th-floor window seat overlooking the park, clutching that acceptance letter and crying, not out of sadness, but relief. When I told my parents at dinner that I'd accepted the offer from Michigan, they were happy, but in that half-hearted, distracted way. "Michigan's so far away," Dad said, frowning. "What if Rachel needs you?" Mom added. "I hope you're not expecting us to help with expenses," she warned. Rachel's cheerleading competitions are expensive. Rachel, of course, perked up, eyes wide. "Oh my God, can I have your room? I need more space for my TikTok videos." The summer before college, I worked double shifts at Carson's Diner. Carol, the owner, slipped me extra tips and always made sure I took home leftover pie at the end of my shifts. She was the first person who taught me to spot real people in a world full of fakes. "Sweetheart," she'd say, "the loudest ones usually have the least to say." Move-in day, Michigan came. My parents couldn't make it. Of course, Rachel had a cheerleading competition. Aunt Kelly drove me instead, helped me set up my dorm, and handed me an envelope with $500 inside. "Your Grandma Marie wanted you to have this," she whispered. "She's proud of you." I later learned Grandma had been tucking away bits of her Social Security checks to make that gift happen. That first night in my dorm, I sat on my bed, staring at the walls, and made a promise to myself. I would build a life so brilliant that being overlooked would be impossible. Not for revenge, not to prove anything to my family. For the little girl who had been sent away for sneezing. College was a whirlwind, late nights, instant ramen, and a sense of freedom I hadn't known I was missing. I graduated summa cum laude from the University of Michigan. My parents didn't notice. They were too busy helping Rachel transfer to her third college in 2 years. And here's where the story takes a turn. I landed an entry-level job at an auction house in Detroit. Let's call it Everett and Phillips, though that's not the real name. It was a high-end firm, the kind that catered to old money clients with priceless heirlooms. My job was basic, documenting estate collections, cataloging items for sale. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. And then came the Kingston estate. Mrs. Kingston was a wealthy widow who'd passed without heirs, leaving behind an enormous collection of what everyone assumed was costume jewelry. Box after box, room after room, of shiny trinkets that no one took seriously. But as I was sorting through it, I spotted something odd, an Art Deco brooch that felt off. It wasn't flashy, but the weight was wrong, the clasp too intricate for costume jewelry. I spent my lunch breaks digging through old catalogs, combing through databases, and even used part of my tiny savings to enroll in an online gemology course. The more I learned it, the more certain I became. This piece wasn't a knockoff. I finally worked up the nerve to approach my boss. Mr. Harrison, sir, I think there's something special in the Kingston collection. He barely glanced up from his phone. Sarah, we've already marked those as costume pieces, I know, but look, these makers' marks match Cartier's 1925 signatures. Exactly. That got his attention. Where'd you learn this? I swallowed hard. I did some research. Long story short, that costume brooch sold for $47,000 at auction. Turns out it was part of a limited Cartier collection made for European royalty in the 1920s. After that, Harrison started trusting me. He gave me other pieces to authenticate, and slowly, my weird little obsession with antique jewelry started paying off. I took every online class one could afford, spent weekends at estate sales, and kept a notebook filled with hallmarks, signatures, and techniques. My apartment became a jewelry detective's dream. Books, printouts, magnifying glasses, everything, and my commissions started growing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Meanwhile, back home, my family's attitude hadn't changed. At Sunday dinners, my mom would tell everyone, Sarah works at that little antique shop. I'd correct her, auction house. Rachel would roll her eyes and say, oh my God, speaking of jewelry, you have to see this charm bracelet I got at the mall. I stopped caring. I had finally found something that was mine, something I was good at, something completely separate from being Rachel's sister. Then came the Rothschild estate. 2 years into my career, we were cataloging a massive old money collection when I spotted it, an unassuming Art Nouveau brooch that others had dismissed. I spent 3 days investigating, barely sleeping. Turns out, it was from a renowned French jeweler thought to have been lost during World War II. It sold for $238,000. After that, Harrison called me into his office. I thought I was about to be promoted. Instead, he said, Sarah, you're wasting your talent here. You should be running your own authentication business. At first, I brushed it off. Me? Start a business? With what money? But the idea took root. Starting my own business seemed impossible at first. But the more I thought about it, the more the idea grew. I took a leap, emptied my savings, took out a loan against my car, and rented a tiny office above a Chinese restaurant. It smelled like Kung Pao chicken. The Wi-Fi only worked by the window, and the furniture was second-hand. But it was mine. The early days were rough. I woke up at 4 a.m., sweating over whether I could make loan payments. I had a folding table from Goodwill, a chair I'd found on the curb, and a dream. But I had what mattered: expertise, a reputation, and a network of collectors from my auction house days. I started small, authenticating jewelry for local antique dealers. My rates were lower than the big firms, but my attention to detail spoke for itself. Word spread. 6 months in, a dealer I'd worked with before asked me to verify a collection of Victorian brooches. The family thought they were replicas, but I spent 2 weeks digging in, barely sleeping. I discovered rare pieces worth 6 figures. The owner was so grateful she paid my fee and gave me a 10% commission on the sale. That one deal earned me $86,000 more than I'd made in 2 years combined. After that, the phone started ringing. Private collectors wanted my estate, lawyers asked for advice. Even my old boss Harrison began quietly referring clients my way. By year 2, I had my first hire, Jenny, a fresh out-of-school gemology grad who reminded me a bit of myself. Bright, overlooked, underestimated, she became my right hand. The business grew faster than I ever expected. We moved into a proper downtown office, we had a team, we had a name. My firm had cornered the Midwest's high-end jewelry authentication market. Meanwhile, my family, still in the dark. At Sunday dinners, Mom would introduce me as my other daughter, Sarah, who works with old jewelry or something. Rachel would chime in, "Oh, by the way, I have some stuff I was going to donate to Goodwill. Maybe your little shop would want it." This, while I was closing deals for millions. I even wore a vintage Patek Philippe watch to family gatherings once, just to see if anyone would notice. They didn't. Rachel spent 20 minutes showing off her $200 Michael Kors, while I sipped wine and smiled. The irony. They thought I was scrimping to send them money. Mom would say things like, "Sarah's so sweet, helping out like she does. She must be living on ramen." No, Mom, I was wiring them $7,000 a month and eating lobster rolls in my office. That money, by the way, was an anonymous transfer I'd started when I heard they were struggling to pay off Rachel's loans and medical bills. It hurt to watch them praise Rachel's efforts while assuming I was quietly scraping by. Rachel, of course, kept flaunting her life on Instagram, new handbags, luxury vacations, probably using my money. The tension simmered until Thanksgiving. It started 2 weeks before. Mom called in tears about her back pain, herniated disc, couldn't possibly cook dinner for 20. I offered to help, not entirely out of generosity. I was sick of pretending her dry turkey was edible. "Let me handle the food this year," I said. "Oh, honey, we can't afford catering," Mom replied. "Don't worry about it, I've been saving up." I lie. I hired a top-tier catering company I used for corporate events. They did incredible work. The cost was more than my family thought I earned in 2 months, but I didn't care. Thanksgiving arrived. I felt good, even brought my laptop to monitor a high-stakes Hong Kong auction for a client. The meal was a hit. Rachel sniped about the store-bought stuffing, but even she shut up after tasting the maple-glazed Brussels sprouts, probably the most expensive thing she'd eaten all year. I stepped away during dessert to check my laptop in my old bedroom, still untouched since high school. Well, Rachel's room had been remodeled 3 times. That's when everything blew up. I'd left my laptop open, tabs filled with authentication contracts, account balances, and pending deals. Rachel barged in, needing a phone charger, glanced at the screen, and her jaw dropped. Without a word, she snatched the laptop and marched into the dining room. "Let's see what Sarah's really been up to," she announced, flipping the laptop around for everyone to see. Silence. Aunts, uncles, cousins, parents all frozen mid-bite. Displayed on the screen. Current account balance, $12.4 million pending contract, $485,000 recent transaction, $1.2 million Hong Kong auction quarterly profit report, $4.2 million. Rachel's face, unpale, then flushed. This can't be right," she stammered. Mom blinked, confused. "Rachel, what is it?" Rachel, voice cracking. She's rich. Sarah's rich." Chaos erupted. The room fell into stunned silence before Mom started laughing, really laughing, like it was the funniest thing in the world. "Don't be ridiculous," she scoffed. "Sarah works at a little antique shop." I stood up slowly, smoothing out my simple cashmere sweater which cost more than their mortgage. "Actually, Mom, I own one of the largest jewelry authentication firms in the country. For years, those antique shop comments, I was authenticating pieces worth millions. That little business. It has offices in 3 cities." Dad choked on his wine. Aunt Kelly dropped her fork. Uncle Bob started coughing. Mom's laughter turned into something else, her face red, then purple. She shot up so fast her chair fell over. "You have millions, and you let us struggle?" she shrieked. I stared at her, stunned. "Struggle? I've been sending you $7,000 every month," Mom gaped. "While sitting on millions, Your sister has student loans. Rachel started crying, wailing about betrayal and family loyalty. Dad's voice boomed. How could you be so selfish? We're your family, that was it, the dam broke. Years of being overlooked, dismissed, treated as a backup planet all came pouring out. You raised me. I snapped. You sent me to grandma's every time I sneezed. You missed every award, every milestone, because you didn't want Rachel to feel left out. You didn't save a penny for my college, but took out loans for her private school. And now you're mad because I built something for myself. The room exploded, Mom shouting about family duty, Dad yelling about ungrateful kids, Rachel crying and demanding to know exactly how much money I had. Meanwhile, the catering staff tried to serve dessert, looking like they wanted to evaporate into the walls. I grabbed my laptop, picked up my Hermes bag, which Mom once called a cute knockoff, and walked out. Behind me, I could hear them arguing about how to spend my money. Rachel's MBA, a new car for Mom, a beach house for Dad. As I drove home in my limited edition BMW, my phone buzzed nonstop. The family group chat exploded. Rachel was already posting on Facebook about hidden family wealth and selfish sisters. The days following Thanksgiving felt like standing in the middle of a hurricane, watching the storm tear apart everything around me, only I wasn't the one causing the destruction. My family was the cyclone, and I was simply done standing in its path. My phone was a war zone. Within an hour of leaving that dinner, I had 47 missed calls and over 200 text messages. Mom's texts started like this: 7:42 p.m. How dare you walk out on your family? 8:15 p.m. We need to talk about this like adults. 9:03 p.m. Your sister deserves a share of your success. 10:30 p.m. I've already spoken to a realtor about houses in a better neighborhood. 11:45 p.m. Why aren't you answering? This is your mother, Rachel. Meanwhile, went full social media warrior. She posted a long, melodramatic rant on Facebook about hidden family wealth and selfish siblings to hoard riches or their family struggles. The comment section exploded. Cousins I hadn't seen in a decade, old classmates, even distant family friends who barely knew me, all chiming in with opinions about my betrayal. What really got me, though, was Rachel's post. All those years I tried to help Sarah build her career, giving her advice, supporting her little antique shop. And she was secretly hoarding millions. The betrayal is beyond words. For context, her career advice once consisted of telling me to sell trinkets on Etsy. Then came the flying monkeys. Aunt Susan, whom I see maybe once every 3 years, called to scold me about family being everything. Uncle Bob emailed a long lecture on the importance of sharing wealth. Even my third cousin's wife's sister, how she got my number, I'll never know, felt the need to weigh in on family obligations. But the real kicker, they showed up at my office. That Monday morning, I walked into my firm's sleek reception area, marble floors, polished desks, floor-to-ceiling windows, to find Mom, Dad, and Rachel sitting there, waiting like they had a right to be there. Rachel clutched her Michael Kors handbag like it was a family heirloom. Mom started, "We've discussed it as a family, and we think it's only fair that you set up trust funds for everyone." Rachel chimed in, "I need at least $2 million to start my new life properly." Dad added, "Your mother and I are thinking of retiring, maybe a beach house in Florida." I stood there, stunned. "Did you miss the part where I've been sending you $7,000 every month?" Rachel scoffed, "That's nothing compared to what you have. You owe us, owe you. For what? The years of being ignored, the missed graduations, the constant comparison to Rachel." Mom waved her hand like I was being dramatic. "Sarah, don't be ridiculous. We gave you everything. That was the final straw." "No, I gave myself everything. And I'm done." Right there, in my own office, I pulled up my phone and canceled the monthly transfer. Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. Rachel's fake crying act stopped mid-wail when she realized it wasn't working. They refused to leave until I called security. Watching my 60-year-old mother being escorted out of my building, shrieking about ungrateful children, was surreal. My receptionist, Jenny, asked if I wanted to press charges. I said no, but I had their names added to the do not admit list for the building. The harassment continued. New numbers, fake email accounts, even attempts to reach me through my company's customer service. I finally had to send a formal cease and desist letter through my lawyer. warning of harassment charges if they didn't back off. Mom tried one last move. She called Grandma Marie, but here's the thing about Grandma Marie. She's sharp. Wiser than all of them combined. Her response. Good for Sarah. About time someone in this family stood up for themselves. Mom didn't speak to Grandma for 2 months after that. 6 months have passed since Thanksgiving. I moved to a new house with better security, changed all my contact information, and built an even stronger business. Funny thing, my story attracted high-profile clients who admired my ability to maintain discretion in the face of family chaos. My firm is thriving. Rachel still posts passive-aggressive updates about toxic siblings and family betrayal. From what I've heard, she's trying to start her own jewelry authentication business. Good luck with that, sweetheart, Mom and Dad. They finally gave up after my lawyer's last letter. They tell anyone who'll listen that they never wanted my money and that they're praying for my salvation. And you know the best part? For the first time in my life, I feel free. No more Sunday dinners filled with snide comments. No more downplaying my achievements to spare their feelings. No more bankrolling the Rachel show. My therapist says I'm finally setting healthy boundaries. I say I'm finally living. Oh, and Grandma Marie, she's doing great. She's coming to visit next month to help me catalog a new collection. And Rachel, I know you're probably reading this. Just one thing, that Cartier bracelet you're flaunting on Instagram, it's fake, just saying.